If you've been tasked with designing a home gym for your client, you're going to want to watch this episode. Stay tuned. Hey kids, and welcome to Designed by Wingnut Social. I'm your host, Darla Powell, and today we have a show we've never done for you before. We are talking to Chris Howell of SPX Gym Design about designing a wellness space, a home gym, an exercise facility for residential and commercial, and some of the things that you might want to consider, or you should consider, I should say, before you really get in there and start, laying out down the equipment and the paint and the flooring or what have you. He has some really terrific insights, and I learned a thing or two about my home gym. So you're going to want to listen to that interview. I want to remind you that Wingnut Social is a digital marketing agency for the interior design niche genre. And that includes architects. It includes vendors, manufacturers, trade goods. It includes, if you're an interior design business coach, all of that stuff around the business of design, the business of home spaces. And you can check us out at wingnutsocial.com. Hit that Let's Chat button. Let's see how we can work together. All right, before I get into my conversation with Chris Howell, you all know the drill. Chris is the founder and owner of SPX Gym Design, a company that has been transforming spaces since 2017. SPX Gym Design fuses interior design with custom gym equipment, creating bespoke wellness environments for high-end homes and hospitality groups. SPX has collaborated with prestigious brands such as Soho House Gyms, One Hotel, ooh, gorgeous, Gurney's Resorts, Proper Hotels, and C4 Energy. His innovative approach to gym and wellness design has positioned SPX Gym Design as a leader in the space. Wingnuts, help me in welcoming Chris Howell to the show. Hey there, Chris Howell. Welcome to the show. How the hell are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Well is good, and wellness and gym design is what we're talking about today. So that ties in, and we have Powell and Howell in the house.
Oh, yeah.
This is the Powell Howell Show.
It's the jam.
All righty, Chris. So today we're talking about a topic that I do not believe we've discussed before in our 400 plus episodes. And we're talking about gym design. Your company is SPX Gym Design, and you do commercial and residential home gyms, commercial gyms. And I know that a lot of designers are probably chomping at the bit to see how they can do this and do this well. So let's talk about it. You game?
Yeah, definitely game.
Awesome. All right. So Chris, just tell us a little bit about SPX and how you decided to niche into gym design. Was this something you've done from the beginning, or did this morph from a interior design business to the gym design? What's your journey there?
Yeah. So actually I started as a trader on Wall Street, oddly.
Wow, cool.
Yeah. And it just wasn't really for me. So I ended up leaving that and became a personal trainer. And while I was doing that, I knew that also wasn't, really going to be my end goal, I think. So I was like, shoot, to be honest, I was pretty down and out at that point. I was like, man, what am I even, good at? So I actually had an amazing opportunity in New York City where I was starting to work with this hospitality group called Soho House. And they were doing this expansive investment in health and wellness for basically all their membership clubs in the US and out of the US. And they were interested in getting up to speed on any trends and, products, anything like that. So I didn't really know much about it, to be honest, at the time. I knew the gym. I knew, just as much as everyone else is going to a gym and being like, hey, that's a dumbbell. That's a barbell. But they were like, what treadmills do we get? And I remember going home and looking up on the computer being like, best treadmills. How anyone would start a Google search. And I came back the next day to that architect and I was like, hey, here's the 10 best treadmills. And I became kind of obsessed with it. I even went to this, there was a store in Green Street downtown in Manhattan. And I went in and brought my phone out and I could hear the decibel of the treadmill versus other treadmills. So I was became
nice.
I really, really enjoyed that product component of it. And being that it was more of a higher end, membership club, they had really firm design standards, really they're hey, we're not just going to put this on the wall. There's got to be millwork around this and how things are going to be stored and the experience of the guests. And so I did kind of worked with the architects and designers and kind of fell into this role there as like helping them spec out equipment for gyms. And then that rolled into like, hey, we need you to go to London to like go hire general managers and trainers. You were a trainer. So it was very like haphazardly. I kind of fell into this space. And then after that, I ended up just doing consulting. And then I was like, I don't really like doing just consulting. I like doing gym design. I like doing that. So that's kind of how I ended up, doing what I'm doing today. So I didn't go to school for it. It wasn't intentional. I kind of fell into it.
Isn't that funny? And a lot of us are like that, right? So a lot of designers kind of fall into it because they're decorating spaces for their friends, or a network sees that they have a particular talent and they ask them to do things and they kind of fake it till they make it, kind of like what you did with the Google thing, and dive in and self-taught and learned in that way. But you did have the physical fitness experience being a personal trainer, right? So that's terrific. And this is something that from Wall Street, right? With the Wolf of Wall Street to developing home gyms, right? That's quite a journey. And that's how I found myself in the marketing sphere. It was accidental, just because I happen to be good at marketing for my design firm. And here we are. Yeah. Here we are today. Okay. So I have a couple of questions for you. So
sure.
You were not a designer, but you're in the gym space and you had to learn design. We have a lot of designers out there who know design and don't know anything about the gym space, right? So when you're designing a home gym, let's say so we'll start with the residential space. What are some of the do's and don'ts that you've learned from your personal experience going in to start? Where do we even begin? What should we be looking for?
Yeah, and I think coming off of like faking it till I make it, like there was definitely a point where I was like, I'm going to need like a really like actually professional designers on my team so that they can help me. So I actually have two interior designers that I work with. So if there is a residential client that's like, hey, here's like a white shell, like, make it amazing. I'm not like pretending I know how to do like elevations or millwork drawings to submit. So that's been like, that's been huge too. And so, to do that. Yeah. So it's kind of like a two-prong. So sometimes we'll come, and I know you'll understand this. You come late to the project and like, oh, there's a gym here. We need to go find somebody. Well, we just poured concrete. There's the electrical. You can't change really anything. So you're kind of like, late to the game. So we're kind of do that. And then we'll collaborate with the interior team or person on the project. So I'm always coming out of the gate being like, I'm not looking to step on your toes. Like, just show me what you want me to do with this. Like, what do you want? What did you show the client? And I'm going to come in with you and we're going to make this happen. So usually they'll have like a Pinterest board of like a dumbbell or this space that they've seen. And like, I can get a sense of what they're trying to go, and I can make it like how they would do a spec package for the client. I'm able to kind of create that for them. Be like, here's where we're going to get these things. Here's the lead time. Here's the cost. And then they're like, hey, like, who's going to put all this together? We're going to handle all that. And then for like the four walls of it, as far as like, if they're going to like do like drop a pendant lighting in the middle of the room or something, be like, maybe that's not the right spec for this room. Or if they're doing like some super expensive teak flooring near the dumbbells, be like, well, eventually, that might not play very nice.
That's going to get beat up. Yep.
Yeah, there's definitely, it's a very collaborative effort. Even if they've already interior designed the room, like I always am just like, hey, let's just get off, on the side, and let's talk about where we're at and let's do it. Or we'll do the whole thing A to Z.
So this is something that you work with other designers as well, like in a consulting basis or a partnership basis, aside from taking your own projects as your own firm.
Exactly. And so, so usually we'll integrate with, so like there's other interior people that I work with, and they'll be like, hey, Chris, we have a gym on this project. We want to bring you in. Great. And then there's other folks who are like, they're like just starting out and they've seen our work before, and they're like, hey, we want to work with you. Like, can you guys design the gym? And so those are kind of the two aspects that we'll do the homes like that.
So let me ask you this. So when you are collaborating with a designer, and let's say they've already kind of designed a gym, but it isn't their area of expertise, and they'll tell you that, right? And they go in, what are some of the biggest mistakes that you're seeing designers make when it comes to designing a gym space? Because there's a lot of things to consider, I'm sure, that we're unaware of.
Yeah. It's I would say for homes, I think kind of like it's going to start from the ground up with the flooring. So depending on how the homeowner is like plans to treat the room, is everything. Because if it's like some like 250-pound like ex NFL person, they're not going to be very gentle in the space probably. Or if they have like, a bunch of young kids that are going to be going in and out. So like putting, when we talk about like a floor, or something, super expensive. So going down with like a rubber, or some type of cork flooring, would be like kind of the first starter. And then it leads to the next question. Well, how thick should the flooring be?
Right.
So that's kind of one thing. And then also sometimes like any type of wall lighting or hanging lights tends to be like, when you're like lower ceiling heights, being able to like push through and having space to do that. And then also sometimes like if the homeowner's like, here's where I want to put the gym, the first question you should ask is like, what's the ceiling height? Because if the homeowner has no idea what they're just like, hey, this is going to be good for the gym. But if it's below 8 feet, you're going to run into problems. Like, and you're not going to realize it until you're like probably putting the mirrors in or like drawing elevation for the mirrors. Or
trying to do a pull-up bar.
Yes, exactly.
And it can like
exactly. It can be done, but it's just going to be a pain. And then it just doesn't match with the experience that you're designing. You're like, hey, this room's going to be amazing. And then they go in, they're like, wait, I can't do anything over my head. So that's always like the number one thing when they're like, hey, I have a 20 by 20 room. We're always like, hey, what's the ceiling height do you have?
That's a really good point. And that's something even I consider. We have our home gym right now in the garage. So there's plenty of ceiling height. But, I've been wanting to put it in the basement because it gets cold here in the winter in Maryland. But that basement's only 7'6". So
yeah, that's tough.
See, look, I already haven't considered that. And a lot of designers in the audience are probably listening right now and say, oh, for a gym floor, I was just going to do vinyl flooring or something like that. It's pretty durable.
Yeah.
But is something like that thick enough? Or is that worth, if you have a barbell and you're dropping the weights, if you have those rubberized plates or something, is that going to tear that up? Or do we have to do the rubber mat flooring? I have horse stall mats actually in my garage.
Yeah. See, you're kind of a pro already. Yeah, that's like the super cost effective.
I'm a pro if I get in there and do it.
Yeah. LVP works great. I think for I'd say for that client that maybe is like, they're just looking for like to have like a set of dumbbells, like, a Peloton bike. And maybe they're like, hey, I'm not crazy, but I want to get in there. That's going to do well. I think when you buy like black dumbbells and you set it down on that, and if you have a lighter color, it's going to come up. You're going to see it scuff up, over time.
I see.
Just like, so you'll see that. But, eCore is a supplier that sells a, really good, like durable LVP. And then they also do rubber that you can get in like I know like a gray or a really, really light that like complements like a lighter, more open, airy feel versus just like what everyone has in their mind, like a black mat. So they do that too as well. So you could have some like, you're not just like stuck with just a black mat. But yeah, that's a good one.
You did mention hanging lights and pendants and things like that. And that kind of seems like a no-brainer, like hi-hats or something that won't be in the way. But one of the biggest challenges I have in my garage gym is the lighting in there. It is almost non-existent. I have like some screw-in light bulb and it's fluorescent and it's terrible. And part of my mindset of going in there with that lighting is it's hard to overcome. So what kind of lighting considerations as far as temperature or anything that would affect, our motivation to work out to actually go in the garage and do it?
I think, oh man, I totally, I've been there. So, one, I think for the garage in general, especially in northern climates, you can actually insulate. I'll get to the light in a second, but I don't want to forget this. You can insulate your garage door. So if you do, if you have like a space heater and you know you're going to work out, you can kick it on and the heat will stay in there. So you just get like panels and you can put it right on your garage door. So you can trap some heat in there and hopefully be a little bit more
and they just
inspired.
stick on?
Stick
on?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it's like kind of like think about like a podcast room, like acoustic paneling. It's kind of similar to that. And so that might help too. But as far as the lighting, especially in the garage, because usually you have the overhead motor that has
Yeah.
like, the worst possible lighting ever in there. And that's like your only light source. So I typically we'll look at, if we're looking at like a restaurant or like, a lobby of like a nice hotel, like something that's relaxing, like 3,500 to 4,000 or something like that. But like for a gym, like 4,500 to just, under 6,000. I feel like 6,000 becomes like, laboratory style. But
Yeah.
But if you
And we're talking color temperatures.
Yeah, color temperatures.
Kelvin,
Sorry,
right?
Kelvin.
Yeah,
Yes, exactly.
4,500 Kelvin is the sweet spot. Okay.
Yeah, I think 4,500 to 5,500, depending on like if you're really like into that like lighter blue look, you can go for it. But I think 4,500, 5,000 is great. And then you can get basically like you would in any other room, just like an indirect LED, like 4, 6, 8 jumps, and you can create like a U around the motor. That's like my head is like you could come across on both sides and make a U around the motor, and then you can take out that light, and now you have really nice 4,500, a little bit more softer lighting, and maybe a little bit warmer garage.
Yeah. All right, you guys know, or at least I hope you know, or if you don't, I'm not doing my job, that we do full service social media management for you guys, interior designers, architects, and to the trade vendors or furnishing manufacturers, etc. But we are excited to announce our very new hybrid plan with Wingnut Social. It's kind of a half done for you, half you do it yourself sweet spot. If you're a beginning designer or a firm who's just really kind of getting started in social media marketing, but don't quite have the marketing budget to delegate it to a marketing firm, because that's a pretty decent size investment, right? This is our hybrid solution, and it's perfect for busy designers who the power of consistent professional content on Instagram. You've heard guest after guest and client after client say how they're getting leads from Instagram, right? But you have that overwhelm. You have no idea what to post, when to post, what the hashtags and captions should look like for a value proposition, a mix in order to reach your ideal client. Well, ta-da! Introducing the hybrid plan with Wingnut Social. You get a monthly content calendar where we create the content for you, and you post at your leisure on your own time with our guidance. We're doing the posts, we're doing feed posts, we're editing reels for you. You get 8 feed posts, 2 reels. We're writing the captions for you. We are researching the hashtags for you that drive engagement with guidance, best practices, and quarterly strategy sessions to make sure that your strategy and everything is in alignment with your business goals. So if you want to find out some more information on our amazing hybrid plan, it's been very popular so far. Head on over to wingnutsocial.com and hit up that Let's Chat button, and let's see how we can work together. Again, that's wingnutsocial.com. So when I do go in there, I feel like I do need to put on a lab coat. So thank you for that. I'm going to change that color temper. I'm going to look into the garage door insulator because it gets free. I do have a space heater in there. So,
yeah.
But it doesn't cut it all the time.
I know.
And I'm from Miami originally, so.
Oh, sweet. Warm-blooded. So your sensitivity is high. Yeah, I get it.
For sure. So what are some considerations as far as the equipment? You mentioned that before. You were researching treadmills. So a lot of the equipment today, we have the Peloton treadmills, we have tonal gyms, we have a whole bunch of stuff that needs a lot of AC power. Is there any particular AC requirement, or can we just do 110 across the board? Is that, when we're speccing out electrical plans for a gym, what are some things that we're missing as designers?
Yeah, it's going to definitely come down to the cardio components for your electrical outside of like, low voltage or a TV if you're setting that up in a specific spot. But without those in consideration, it's going to be the cardio. The treadmill is going to be usually, if it's like a really higher end treadmill, it will require like a NEMA receptacle. So it'll be like a NEMA 520. And then that will require a dedicated 15 amp circuit on a 240. So that'll be the highest powered like spec that you'll have to communicate to your GC or electrical engineers. Other than that, a Peloton bike, which is super common in your residential homes, are going to be like a 120. And, they'll do like 3 amps. So it's like a standard outlet.
Okay, cool.
Super simple. I mean, but yeah, even, residential grade ellipticals, things like that, they'll plug right in. But the treadmills, many higher end residentials, they'll go to an Equinox or a Lifetime and they'll say, I want that treadmill. That's a commercial grade treadmill that they want. And it'll retail around, the nicest ones right now are around like $17,000. It's kind of wild.
Wow.
And so that
you better use it.
You better use it. Yeah. And and they pull a massive amount of power. So those higher end grades will pull power, mainly because it just has a bigger motor in it.
What do you recommend when it comes to equipment for residential? Is the Peloton? I have a Peloton treadmill and a bike, and again, I don't use it as much as I should. But is that just a big marketing, ecosystem, or do you find that that's really good equipment, or what would you recommend that's not, quite so basic?
Yeah, in general, I think we all know what we should be doing, right? But there's a difference of knowing what we should do and actually doing it. So it comes down to compliance. And that's like any type of trainer or, especially with design, it's how can you create a more inspiring space so you're motivated to go into it more often, or you want to hang out to it. So that's how we look at these gyms. So when we're speccing the equipment, we don't want to just grab an Amazon dumbbell and call it a gym. We want it to make people walk in and be like, man, I need to get in here and work out today. So the Peloton, I think, is a great way for people to if you're just man, I need motivation. You just click on a class and you get on and just start pedaling. If you think of the actual concept, if you're sitting from the couch, and you're sitting on your Peloton, you're still doing the same thing. You're just moving your feet, So, and it comes down, if you're doing that, you're every day or whatnot, you're winning, you're going to do your thing. So, I think the Peloton tread, do you have, which one do you have?
The newer one, the one that goes to 10. Yeah, I had the older one and I sold it.
Yeah,
and then I was like, why did I sell it? And then I got the newer one.
People really like that older one. They just re-released it. But those both are great. What I like about those are the way you changing the incline and speed on the right and left. I think it's so fast. And then if you're running or walking, it's just right there. You don't have to
intuitive.
Reach in front of you. So I think those are great. I think they're great entries into people just starting working out or things like that. On the commercial side, they're like gimmies. We have to put the bikes in hotels. Have to.
Oh, okay.
People will people complain about everything, but that's the one thing you're going to get a complaint about if you don't have the Peloton bike in there. So I think they have 6 million subscribers. So the chances of those people are traveling to a hotel are pretty high, and they want the continuity. So those two are great. I think Techno Gym is a great, really high quality, brand. Life Fitness is out there, doing it. And then we work with a ton of different vendors, to source really custom things. We do an Italian leather with it's a diamond stitch on the benches. Yeah. It's we take it to a whole other level of customization, things like that, to marry the design and interior with the equipment. So if you go crazy and have this a beautiful room, I don't want to just stick black dumbbells and a black bench in there. I want to marry it. I want it to feel like it was, there was intent behind it. But yeah.
Yeah, I love it. What are some of the trends that you're seeing when it comes to the home gyms? Are we still doing box designs, CrossFit-esque kind of equipment, or do you see that kind of fading out, going back to the, plug and play machine setups? What is that looking like in 2024?
It's a great question. Because there was this huge push around functional training and open concept. And right now I think it's moving towards, it's contracting a bit of the both, where you are going to get people who are I have 2 or 3 machines I really like. Great. And then you want your functional training with your half rack and the barbell and all that stuff. So you're still maintaining the open concept, which I think looks great. You still want space, and you'll be able to see, have a sight line out to the beach or whatever your home is. But you still have these 2 things that, again, back to compliance. It's so much easier to get onto a machine if you're looking to do a shoulder press than grabbing a 40-pound dumbbell, lugging it up and being this, So, and then it also manages the form and stuff like that. So I see a little bit of contraction of both. So sometimes I'll ask a client, and I'll be hey, are there any machines that you really like that you think you'd want to include here? And then they'll tell me a machine, and I'll be that might be a little too big for your house, but here's something else that we could do. And then we can have some, some remnants to what they actually want that's in a commercial setting. So yeah, but yeah, see it contracting, I think a little bit of both.
Yeah, I have a little bit of both, right? Myself, I did CrossFit back in the day, a shoulder surgery later, and
Oh yeah,
it's
tough.
notorious for that. So Chris, let me ask you, so how many requests are you getting for the self-care aspect of home gyms? And by that, I mean, are you getting a lot of requests, say, I want the gym and I want it a certain way, and of course you're designing it with the proper flooring, the proper height, but including maybe a cold plunge or a
Yes.
sauna or that kind, okay, right, the whole package. So that's something to think about too. You're thinking about the use case and the total wellness perspective of the lifestyle factor of the gym, right? Talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think so I think unlike a lot of designers, like I came out of the box being like gym design. Not only gym design, I wanted to do like higher end gym design. So it really disqualified a lot of leads right out of the bat. But I would say right around 2019, 2020, we started doing I would say wellness. So we're doing a lot of things that are outside the gym as well. So sauna, steam, plunges, any type of recovery modalities, things like that. We're also doing that. And that since 2020 has been like booming. So we'll do the gym, and then there might be more typically like an outdoor component, or an adjacent room that they'll have a little bit softer. They'll have their sauna, they'll have their cold plunge, they'll have that's actually something that I would love to mention, that if anybody is designing for a home and they do get a request from a client that they want a sauna and they do want some type of plunge aspect, plunge being like a hot cold therapy. And so typically you'd go back and forth, say like 15 minutes in the sauna, 3 minutes in the cold. The problem is you need somewhere to rinse all the sweat. And I think a lot of people don't consider that. So there should be some type of shower component. Otherwise, the water in the cold will kind of fester and won't be great.
That's something I wouldn't have thought of. And that's why we need consultants who specialize in that niche, just like everything else, right? I think that's super important. When I had my interior design firm, I wasn't doing CAD or elevations either. I also hired interior designers who had the schooling. So it's brilliant. I mean, your big picture, your expertise is the gym piece, and my garbage people are here. I don't know if you can hear the beeping.
No.
But I love that. That's really terrific. A whole bunch of things that I haven't thought of. But before we get into the fire round, what other things are you're saying that interior designers aren't thinking of in advance when it comes to designing a home gym that makes us need consultants like you?
No, I think the gym, and to be honest, like, you could do a lot of research and dive into it if you have the time. Like, chances are you're designing an entire house. So it just ends up being this like room that gets like ignored until the last moment. Because you could figure it out, but you're also dealing with the kitchen, you're dealing with all this other stuff. And then if the client's needs isn't very demanding, like, I feel like usually most folks can get away with it. But I think if we're trying to create a space that's like super aspirational, and in the way that we talked about, where you want people to walk by and be like, wait, that's the gym? Like, that's amazing. Like, when can I come over? But I think where it's getting even more challenging is you're getting clients that want both. To your point, they want the wellness, and the sauna and the steam and the cold. There's so many more requirements around ventilation. The power alone for that is triple than what we just talked about. Ventilation, drainage, all that stuff has to be considered from like day one. So there are ways where you can get away with like, oh, I forgot the power. You pull more power to the treadmill and like call it a day. But if you're messing up the drainage and they get in and out of the tub and it became an after fact, like that's a huge problem. So I think considering that some people will want both, that's where you definitely, like, how I would look to like a 3D artist for a 3D moment or something for a client. I wouldn't try to like figure it out. And so there's a point to me having some integrity to say like, I'm not great at this, but how can I go solve this? So for this person, for this client. So
I love it. All right, Chris Howell.
Yes.
I have to ask you, are you ready for the What Up Wingnut round?
I'm ready.
What would the hashtag on your tombstone be?
Hashtag on the tombstone would be buy once, cry once.
That's a great one. I love that. And I live by that motto for the most part. And when I don't, I always cry twice.
Yes.
You're stuck on a deserted island, but you can have your one favorite food forever. What is it?
Oh man, I just found this. Pizza, pepperoni, jalapeno, and Mike's Hot Honey.
That sounds terrific.
Yeah,
I
it's
love
pretty
it.
good.
I mean, I'm not mad about it. Last but not least, please recommend a book that's impacted you either personally or professionally.
Yeah, I would say a little bit of both. How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie.
Dale Carnegie, yeah. That's a classic.
Yeah.
Going back to the classics. How did that help you?
I think it came a little bit more on the like human psychology side. You know, we always are thinking from like what I want, especially like growing up, and it kind of putting the shoe on the other foot and being like, how do you speak to someone so that you can articulate your ideas more clearly without saying, I believe it's, you know, you or Darla, this, and all of a sudden it kind of did that. And I always learned a lot better when it was put into a story format. And so I feel like Dale Carnegie did a great job of like, you know, bookending a lot of stories with some of the concepts he was trying to communicate.
I love it. A terrific recommendation. Chris Howell, please tell the Wingnuts where they can go to find out more about you and SPX Gym Design, and we'll call it a day.
Yeah, you can find us on social media. My name, Chris Howell 16, or at SPX Gym Design, or our website is spxfit.com.
All right. Thank you so much, Chris.
Thank you, Darla.
All right, guys, that is it for this week. I have to run out and get that insulation for my garage doors, evidently, because it's about to get really cold here in Maryland, and I need no more excuses to not work out. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you enjoy the show. And if you haven't checked out our YouTube channel, Designed by Wingnut Social, head on over to there. Sometimes it's fun to watch, especially the bloopers, if I do say so myself. And remember, Wingnut Social, wingnutsocial.com, and Wingnut Social on all the social media channels. Check us out if you need help with marketing your interior design business. Remember, until next time, to get out there, get uncomfortable, and be great. Carter. And we're hot flashing.